Welcome to the program. In June of 2016, the Zuckerberg Initiative invested about 28 million US dollars on a boarding African IT firm known as Andela. 3 years since that initial fanfare settled, I speak with one of its executives and he tells me how Andela has not only been able to raise much more capital, but how it is currently raising the most sought after IT programmers and, of course, professionals in the African continent. Join me on this interview. Once again, welcome to Dashboard with OJ.
Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, you don't look like the IT guys. Is it
Um,
because you're just marketing and communication?
well, yeah, or maybe it's just because I'm on your show.
Okay.
On a regular day, it's my t-shirts and my
Oh,
jeans and
okay.
my boots. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, I struggled with it for a while because I'm more of like the suit, and the tie guy
okay.
and the trad guy as well.
Okay.
But the whole time I felt really comfortable, yeah, in just my t-shirt and my jeans.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
wow. I do t-shirt and jeans too because most of the time I'm, at the studio. And so I don't have to put on the tie. I remember the last time I wore a tie, I
Mhm.
was almost going to curse because I'm like, no way. For every breath I took, like one curse and another one, another profanity, but I just kept everything in my mind.
Yeah.
So let's talk business. Andela.
Yeah.
I got to know about Andela and I'm say pretty sure that a whole lot of us got to know about Andela when Mark Zuckerberg came to Nigeria, when that huge, how much was it again? That huge amount of money was invested into Andela.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was a very interesting time for the African tech ecosystem.
Yeah.
Mark Zuckerberg is a force to reckon with when it comes to technology.
Mhm.
And first time in Nigeria, he actually came all the way down to Andela. That was Andela Series B, and it was monumental for us because Andela set out to prove that brilliance is evenly distributed. And as at that time in 2016, what that meant once we secured the Series B funding from Zuckerberg Initiative, it pretty much meant that we're doing something right, and it was a testament to the fact that brands to reckon with were looking to invest in Andela. So it was really huge for the ecosystem and for Andela at the same time because it finally meant that the world was watching, and then Andela was eventually doing something right that people like the Zuckerberg Initiative were willing to be a part of.
So you mentioned ecosystem. Back in the day, ecosystem used to be a biological term, but now ecosystem seems to be representing something entirely different now.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you think about it from the biological sense,
Yeah.
it's almost still the same thing. But then right now, when
Mm.
we say ecosystem, we never fail to leave out tech. Ecosystem in the sense that there are actually a bunch of people who are doing maybe something similar or within a similar space. And then they're doing that particular thing to grow that space. So when I say ecosystem, right, for instance, the tech ecosystem, what that means is we have a couple of tech companies, maybe not essentially doing a particular product or essentially delivering a particular service, but there's actually something very, very similar to all of these companies, yeah. And then we also refer to it as like the ecosystem, the tech ecosystem. Maybe other industries might refer to it as, or maybe the FMCG industry or but then we actually refer to it as the tech ecosystem. That's the case.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So what is it like right now after that huge injection of funding? How has that helped Andela, and what's Andela doing with all of that investment?
Well, so that was all the way back to 2016. But then
2016,
let's
just about 3 years ago.
yeah,
so.
but let's fast forward now
Okay.
to 2019.
Okay.
It's interesting because you asked about the Series B, and that was in 2016, right? In 2017, October 2017,
Okay.
we also got another funding. That was our Series D or
Okay.
our Series C,
Okay.
excuse me. And then in January 2019, we actually got our Series D, and that was led by Generation Investment Management.
Okay.
Andela has been able to raise 180 million naira, $180 million, excuse me.
Okay.
And the fact that we've actually been able to raise funds all the way up to Series D is really just a testament to the fact that we're doing something right. Just recently, when we raised the $100 million, Andela made a promise that we're actually going to use that the funds to scale the business, right? To do more, more than what we had already done in the past. And that's pretty much what we're doing. This year we pretty much launched, in Egypt and Ghana. So we currently have physical locations in Egypt and Ghana. And we're physically present in 6 locations here in Africa. And that's pretty much a tip of the iceberg compared to the plans and the mission that Andela actually has for Africa, as the case is. Yeah, so we're investing in talent. We're heavily investing in talent. It's just 5 years and we have over 1,700 software engineers spread across different countries in Africa.
Wow.
Yeah.
1,700.
Over 1,700.
Over.
Yes.
Wow.
Over 1,700.
But that is still about 0.7% of those who apply to come into Andela.
Well, it's actually funny because
so it's like it's crazy to get into Andela.
Well, there's a popular saying in the ecosystem that it is harder to get into Andela than it is to get into Harvard, because the conversion rate for Harvard is, I think that's about 7%. I'm not entirely sure, but it's about 7%. But then Andela's conversion rate is about 0.7%. Yes, we set out to prove that brilliance is evenly distributed. And even at that, we set out to compete on a global scale to show that brilliance is really evenly distributed. And you also need to understand that the type of talent that we pretty much need, we made a promise that we get top talent and then have them work with global companies. And that's what we do. So yeah, it's 0.7, right? But it's actually the best of the best. Yeah.
Okay, so looking at Africa, do you ever think Africa will catch up with what is happening in the rest of the world, IT-wise, innovation-wise, best practices now all over? Do you think Africa, how long do you think we have to well, let me know what you think.
Well, it's funny because we're there already.
We are.
We're there already.
Okay.
When you talk about talent, when you compare African talent, we're actually making waves. If you look at the Kenyan ecosystem, they have M-Pesa. Here in Nigeria, we have a ton of engineering products that are currently solving problems, some of the problems that Africa is currently facing. Look at the fintech industry. We have pretty much revolutionized the fintech industry. And that is not even just here in Nigeria, all the way to Kenya, with M-Pesa and a couple of other products. When you compare talent, software engineering talent to that of, other global countries, you realize that Africa, we've actually already made a mark. And it's pretty much just the tip of the iceberg to what you're going to see in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
So how do you source for this talent? How do you get them? How do you recruit them? How do you attract these people?
Well, at Andela, right, there's something that everybody already connects to. Andela's culture is second to none here in Africa. Andela Nigeria. Andela was actually known as the best place to work. I think we won an award, the best place to work for last in 2018, and that is because the way we do things and how we do things is entirely different from the norm. We have a lot of young people who work for us, and what a couple of other companies don't understand is that you need to build a particular system or structure that can actually accommodate all of these people. And at Andela, we have an enabling environment. And what I'm actually going to point that out is the culture. At Andela, people within and outside of Andela, they already know about the Andela culture, and then everything we do revolves around our culture and our core values, which we refer to as EPIC, excellence, passion, integrity, and collaboration. And because people already understand that, especially the software engineers, they're pretty much just willing to work for Andela. So it's almost, over the past 5 years, we've spent a lot of time and efforts trying to build the brand and trying to sell the story and the mission. And people pretty much just connect to Andela's mission, and that's why we attract them.
Africa, it's, perpetual existence. People say that it will continually be at the mercies of, it will continually be a pet project for the West, for people like Mark Zuckerberg. How true is that?
I don't know how true that is, but speaking about asking if I think Africa will continue to be a pet project, I strongly disagree.
Okay.
I think that's why we have a lot of tech companies that are sprouting up left, right, and not just here in Nigeria, but around Africa. I actually want to speak about a particular product. It's called Eyawo. and it's a product that's pretty much bridges the gap between people who aren't financially included and people who are financially included. And it's because Africans are currently realizing that, look, we need to solve our problems ourselves, right? And then people are seeing the need for, starting something that can actually solve our own problems. In my own opinion, I think what's the problem we have had is that some global companies who are not entirely, present here, they don't understand the problem, and then they don't see the entire picture of the problem. So whatever solution doesn't necessarily solve that problem, right? But then seeing how a couple of tech products are currently solving some of the challenges that we face as Africans, built by Africans, owned by Africans, it pretty much just tells you the story that Africans have decided to, take the bull by its horn and then build for itself.
Okay, so with all of this innovation and all of these changes that are happening, especially, in the banking, in logistics and transportation, we see a lot of changes, mind-blowing changes, because back in the day, you find a taxi driver, sit by the road and expect someone to stop him or wave him down, or ask him if we could use his ride or something. But now it's all changed. So all of this, in all of these innovation and changes we see in IT, how many of these things does Andela have a hand in? Whether directly or indirectly?
Yeah, well, it's pretty interesting because I'll tell you how we have a hand in this thing.
Okay.
Now at Andela, what we do is we're currently building a community of tech leaders who would pretty much build for the future. We do not build products at the moment for ourselves. We do not own products. What we do is we're a global technology company that offers software engineering as a service. Now, what that means is we have engineers who are embedded in engineering teams of global companies and then are helping them build their products roadmap or their products. And by extension, you can pretty much just say if an Andela engineer worked on this particular product, by extension, Andela had a hand in it. So there are tons and tons of products that you have out there, maybe not here in Africa, that Andela engineers were pretty much involved in. But then does Andela currently own a product here that is, maybe used somewhere else? I'm not entirely sure about that. We currently build for ourselves internally. We have products that we use to optimize processes internally, but then we do not, or we haven't started building for the external community or external businesses. But then let me sell the bigger picture to you.
Okay, good.
Now we're playing the long run game here. Think about it. We hire a bunch of engineers and then we have them build products, right? It's short term. The people that we need more than one, we need more than 10, we need more than 100 engineers to build for the future, right? And the reason why I said Andela is playing the long run game is because all of these software engineers that we have currently, we have 1,700, and the number would maybe quadruple within the next 10 years or 5 years even. Now, all of these people that Andela is currently investing in are the ones that would eventually build for the future. So what I'm saying is Andela is currently training talent, investing in talent, just so that these talents would work with global teams. Now, when you work with global teams, you already understand, you're pretty much getting global experience, right? And you can use that standard to build something that would last for Africa. So we're pretty much just building the software engineers who would actually build for the future.
Okay, so when it's software engineers, when they come into a system, into an existing system, they help out with the IT part of the system. They put for solutions that will enable smooth transitions, smooth storage of information, data, executions of different stuff. Okay, so would it not be a case of already there's staggering underemployment? Of course, the level of unemployment we have in the country.
It's ridiculous.
Would it be a case of one man coming to provide the service that 20 to 40 people would normally provide, and thereby reducing the amount of job that's available in the system and thereby increasing unemployment? And do you think Nigerians want this kind of growth?
I think whether we like it or not, if we want to move as a nation, right, we need to start to accept things like this. It's evolution. It's everywhere. If you consider how work was done in the 1930s or 1940s, we had more factory workers, than maybe white collar, workers.
Yeah.
But then technology in itself is really supposed to make our lives easier.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I see technology. If you ask me to define what technology is pretty much just supposed to make something, the process of doing something easier. And that doesn't just affect our personal lives, it also affects the workplace. At Andela, we entirely believe in value, and there's something that we almost always, sing to the next person. If there is an app, or if there is a product that would give you more time, if it's not mentally tasking, if it's something physical, and then there's a product that can already help you do that, do not waste time on it. Right? Because what matters to us the most is value. Nigerians might not be ready. I have no idea. But then I think that as a professional, you really should be able to anticipate to say, will this particular job be relevant in the next 5 years? Will this skill be relevant in the next 5 years? Do I need to upskill myself in the next, within the next couple of months, just so I can stay relevant?
Yeah.
And that's really what people need to start to, that's what they need to connect themselves with. How can I stay relevant in this, my role? Take, for instance, a factory worker in 1930. What if you had said, oh, you know what, over and above just taking boxes from this place to this next place, I want to understand how to manage, maybe data. How can I compute data? How can I manage systems? Over and above just physically doing something, you also need to think about how to, upskill yourself. And it's really just aggregating more skills and skills and skills, just so you can actually stay relevant. Africans or Nigerians might not be ready, but the one advice that I have for them is for you to stay relevant, for you to still keep that job that you really love, you need to keep improving on yourself. So learning, acquiring new skills, and then just improving on yourself as the case is.
Wow, that's good. So it's not a good place you want to visit every time because of the terrible, so to say, IT products. We have fraudsters, supposedly. We have, every time we hear of news of Nigerians doing wonderful, in quote, things, inside and outside of the country. What do you think about it as an IT specialist? What do you think? And is there going to be some change in the narrative? Is Andela going to do anything magical? Can they do anything?
So it's quite sad that all of these things are happening. But then it's just not peculiar to Nigeria. It happens everywhere. Where you're creating a system to improve something, people are trying to beat that system.
To hack it,
right? So people are almost always trying to hack that system or a system that has been put in place. Speaking about Nigeria and speaking about how or what Andela is doing, if you remember what I said about our core values, one of the things is actually integrity. Andela is big. We have a zero tolerance level for all of these activities. Integrity, we're big on integrity. And at Andela, we have the best recruitment team. And then we trust them to hire the best people. Andela is where it currently is today, just in 5 years, because we've hired the best people. And we always preach the Andela culture, which revolves around the core values: integrity. So Andela isn't entirely doing something to the entire or general ecosystem, but then what we're doing is we're actually treating it from the inside. And we've actually been able to successfully foster that thing in the minds of everybody. So we're entirely big on integrity. And then maybe as we scale, we can now start to project how we can also extend these learnings or these trainings to the external people, just so they can get it. I don't know, adopt it. But it's a problem. Personally, I think it's still going to be here in the next 5 years, 10 years.
Okay.
It might get worse because, again, as you're building out products or, as you're innovating to make people's lives easier, there are actually some people who would also look to beat the system. Yes, we have a lot of us, a lot of Nigerians who are into this thing, but then it's just not peculiar to Nigeria.
True.
When you consider a couple of other countries, for me, right, the way I like to look at it is that it's a global disease, right? Maybe there are a lot of Nigerians that are into it because we're 200 million people, and then if 10% of them are actually doing it, the number would just seem very ridiculous. But if you go to another country where they have maybe 5 million people, and then you hear that 10% of these people are into it, the effects might not be as much as it would be for Nigerians. It's very sad. It is something that we need to tackle head on. Yeah, but currently we're treating it internally. I feel like within Andela, I can trust the next person. I can do business with the next person, and I trust that his level of integrity will be high to the roof.
I was driving down the road the other day, and I was stopped by a policeman, the officer of the law, and he asked me to park with that aggressive tone. Park. You know, a young guy, supposedly fairly used, so to say, car, And then I parked and I went down and I greeted him. Then as soon as I saw my wedding band, his aggression dropped a bit. And so he asked me, "Good afternoon, what are you carrying?" I said, "My laptop, my shoes, and my babysitter." And he didn't hear me well. So I just went down and saw two babysitters. And then he said, "Oh, you're a father. Oh my God. Oh, yeah, come and be going. It's not what I'm looking for here." So how do you feel when you go out in a t-shirt and your boots and your jeans, and then you have your laptop with you, and a whole lot of IT guys? It's like that's the way you guys dress. That's the way everybody dresses. And so when you stopped on the road and said, "Okay, what's on your laptop?" They ask all those very strange questions. How do you tackle it, and how do you think the rhetoric can change? Because it's about change. We're talking about how changes can come.
So I think the reason why we have that problem, first things first, is the orientation. A friend of mine was asking me questions about our law enforcement. He was like, "Oh, do these people get trained?" I didn't know this answer. I'm like, "Oh yes, they get trained by people who are currently there." Now, what that means is the system might never get better because even the people who are training the new guys, they don't know better. I think the first things first is that if the government can also look into some sort of orientation program, because you need to, it's the mentality. That's where you need to actually attempt to solve the problem from. First things first. And then, yes, I feel like once you solve the problem of orientation, just so even, people can actually start to see these guys differently, then, that's the first step to solving this problem. I'll also tell you another story about how I've heard from some software engineers say, "Oh, their parents don't understand the concept of, maybe their dad or their mom would come and say, I hope you're not into, cyber crime. I hope you're not, all of these things." And they're like, "I am a software engineer." And they're like, "Oh, what are all these things, all these funny things I'm seeing on the system?" Yeah, the codes, what are around. They? So I think even parents don't even, understand this. They can't even grasp the concept of work from home. I know that, I have a friend who also works at Andela. He tells his mom, "Oh, I'm working from home today." And she's like, "Are you sure you still have this job? Like, what is happening?" I said all of that to say that it actually boils down to orientation. Parents, law enforcement, everybody actually needs to, the mentality needs to change. Like, the world is changing and you just need to keep updating yourself. So I think that's like the first step to changing that perception. But then you also cannot forget the fact or overlook the fact that we have a lot of these fraudsters out there. And sometimes, right, even if you maybe playing the devil's advocates now, maybe these guys are just really trying to do their job. You just need to, the orientation there needs to be better. I think that's the best way to solve this problem.
Wow. So finally, before you go, do you game?
Yeah, I do. I play FIFA a lot.
FIFA 19 and FIFA 20 is about to be launched. Has it been released?
I have no idea yet. I'm still enjoying beating a lot of people on 19. So
I would like to see how good you are.
Oh, I will like to see how you play.
Thank you very much for the show.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Yeah.